G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. We potentially just had one of the worst Fortnite tournaments we have ever seen, and it was for over $150,000 worth of prize money. We had top tier pros like Centered and Miro taking to social media to vent their frustration, even going as far as to at the company organizing the tournament and telling them it's the worst run Fortnite event they have ever been a part of. But there was some positives. We got to see which new teams were popping off, Clix just coming short of the first place. We also saw Mongraal competing for his first time in Chapter 3. Got to hear some of his thoughts and his plans for the future of Fortnite competitive. We had pro players getting banned mid-tournament for their name changes, which honestly, in my opinion, really weren't that bad. Meanwhile, we had other teams getting leaked the code, getting into the tournament and stream sniping and griefing the top tier pros, even going so far as to DM them on Discord, blackmailing them to get them to stop griefing them. This tournament was an absolute train wreck. I want to talk about the good and the bad because we did get to see how the new competitive meta is looking. So it's a lot to cover. Let's just jump into it. All right, let's start off talking about this tournament that has been deemed the worst tournament in Fortnite competitive history. And I'm not the one saying that. That's coming from the mouths of notable pros like Miro and Centered, who voiced their concerns and criticism and frustrations against the tournament. Miro and Centered have since gone back and deleted their tweets, and rightfully so. Some of the stuff they said, they definitely do not want to leave on social media, going as far as to actually at the tournament organizers themselves to tell them how terrible the tournament is. I'm not going to bring up specific tweets, and some of you guys might think, hey, Ozzy, if they delete the tweets, why are you bringing it back up? It's because I'm kind of here to defend them. I'm going to explain what went wrong in the tournament, why there was so much drama, and why it can be done better in the future. Now, I want to make this clear. This is not the FaZe Mongraal G Fuel Cup that ran today for $25,000. That tournament was phenomenal, and I'm going to use that at the end of today's video as an example of how to run a proper tournament, but also talk about some of the results. It was our first chance to see Mongraal play competitive Fortnite in Chapter 3, get some insights into is he going to be competing this season, what's happening. He had no arena points, everyone freaking out that he's quitting the game. I'm going to cover all of that and all the best and worst EU teams at the end of the video. I want to start off with this JBL ESL $100,000 tournament that took place today and all the craziness that went on. First off, the way this tournament worked was you had $35,000 allocated to OCE, EU, and NAE. So it was 3 separate tournaments with over $100,000 on the line. Now, there were a number of qualification spots up for grabs and a bunch of invited spots. When it came to the qualifications themselves, this was already a massive drama. There was a whole bunch of people playing. Pros were told they had to play all 4 games if they wanted to qualify. One of the games started with 40 players and the points still counted. A whole bunch of pros left that game because they didn't want to play it because it had 40 players. Then other pros got invited with only 3 games played. It was an absolute mess. It was an absolute nightmare. I'm not going to go through the qualifiers because those parts are always maybe a bit harder with tournaments. I want to focus on exactly what happened today in the finals. To kick it off, we managed to, after game 2, I believe, we had users and Sprite kicked from the tournament because Sprite's name was Foggy Window 420. Now, you can make of that what you will. I don't see what is offensive about Foggy Window 420. I guess 420 is a weed reference, and maybe ESL and JBL took offense to that. Marijuana or weed is legal in a lot of states in the United States now and a lot of countries around the world. I don't see why 420, even if you are drawing that reference, is enough to kick them from the tournament. But that was already a strange take. But hey, I thought, okay, ESL, they run a lot of major LAN events around the world, a lot of competitive events, Counter-Strike, Valorant, all those games. They're just being a little bit more strict on the Fortnite pros. And sometimes I do believe the Fortnite pros should be held to a higher standard. So I was like, okay, this tournament's going to run really well. They're really on top of it and they're playing extra strict. That is not the case. It went downhill very quickly because ESL was not using some kind of a queue system like Unite to guarantee that people got the code and didn't actually get to see the code. They were giving out the code manually to players so they could see it. This was then getting leaked to pros and other players who were then joining the tournament and griefing the teams at the very top. One player going so far as to actually get into the game with a racial slur, the N-word, in his name. And this player made it through the entire game without him getting actioned, yet Foggy Window 420 got kicked. It was just absolutely ridiculous, and I think this was a sign for what was to come for the rest of the tournament. These players, while not being able to specifically target the top teams because a lot of them weren't streaming because they had to have a 4-minute delay if you wanted to stream the tournament. It's why players like Clix just couldn't be bothered streaming, because I don't know if you guys have ever streamed with a 4-minute delay. You're talking so far into the past, you can't hold a conversation. It just reminds you of that XQC meme where he talks about how by the time you read a sub, someone has died, gotten married, had children, grown up. Like, it's crazy, but the pros were not streaming the tournament, but a lot of these players who got in knew where the pros were dropping, and two people in particular, Sensitive Miro, who I had very high hopes on to watch and see how well they would go, felt like they were being targeted by these pros. They were also playing very, very strangely in the way they were pushing certain fights, and all across the board, it was just very odd. They clearly had a big impact on the tournament in the game they were in. They didn't just go down early, but unfortunately, the tournament organizers' fix and solution to this problem was just, oh, we're not going to count those players' points. But obviously, players like Sensitive Mirror were like, well, that doesn't make me get my points back. It doesn't bring me back to life. I just died to someone in a tournament who's not supposed to be here when I'm playing for tens of thousands of dollars. So this is where the frustration started to build. You had a lot of pros in the Discord, the closed Discord. I've just seen this because a lot of them are posting photos online, which again have been deleted. So, you know, expressing their concern for the competitive integrity of the game. Unfortunately, there was really no fix to this. The players ended up not getting the code and they ended up being kicked and actioned, but by this point the damage was done. A whole bunch of the top tier teams had been griefed out of their points and had gone down, so I think things started to go downhill and a lot of the pros were not taking the tournament as seriously. We did still have a really cool result in the very end. It came right down neck and neck as a race between Clix and Day and Aged and Rise, and honestly, Clix and Day were looking fantastic. A lot of people have a big question mark on who's Clix going to do it with, who's he going to play with, and they looked fantastic. Clix and Day were only getting a few houses out of Sleepy, rotating, getting absolutely no metal on their rotate, and still playing really, really well. It did give me a lot of confidence for them going forward. It does scare me that Clix always seems to play so much better off stream, even when it's not an issue of stream sniping like in opens. I think it might just be a pressure thing, or maybe it's like a thing with their vibes. Maybe Clix and Day just talk and play differently when they're on stream. I don't know, but Aged and Rise also played phenomenally, and big hats off to them and compliment to them. I wish I could break down more for you how well they did and how well they played, but it kind of moves on into the next topic. If you tried to watch the tournament, whether it be through my Twitch or whether it would be on the official broadcast, the people running the tournament themselves very clearly have not done any spectating or observing of Fortnite before. In the last two games, when Clix, Day, Aged and Rise was 0 points difference, they were literally on the same amount of points, neck and neck, going into the second last game. Between those two full games, 50 minutes of gameplay, we got to see either of them for about 30 seconds. It was actually kind of concerning. It looked like the observers were avoiding showing them for whatever reason, to the point where I thought something was going on that was a bit shady, but no, they just chose not to show them. So I wish I could go into detail for you guys and break down what the pros did that was so good, how they were playing the meta, what did Aged and Rise do that was so fantastic, but I don't know. With them not streaming because of a 4-minute delay and with no access to replay mode, I was relying on the official broadcast to see what was going on, and I just didn't see it. I want to make this very clear. This is not an attack on JBL or ESL or any tournament organizer in general. If anyone who's involved in the production is watching this, or anyone who's running tournaments in the future of Fortnite is watching this, don't be scared or concerned that the community is now going to flame you. Everyone's going to hate you just because you try to put on a tournament. But what is very upsetting, and I have to speak on the pros' behalf here, is when big companies want to invest big money into Fortnite. It is amazing for everybody. It's fantastic. Everybody benefits. If you run it properly and if you reach out to a few people in the Fortnite scene who have ran tournaments before. I understand where ESL and JBL have gone wrong with this tournament. They clearly don't have experience running Fortnite tournaments. If you run Counter-Strike, Valorant, Rocket League tournaments, it's very, very different. When it comes to running Battle Royales, especially Fortnite, there's a whole bunch of moving parts. You have to have 100 players ready to play. You have to have them access to the code. You have to have a leaderboard that can then, you know, bring all their scores together, because you can't manually get the scores, or if you do, it ends up taking years, which is what the broadcast ended up doing. It was a 5-hour broadcast for 6 games. There's just a whole bunch of issues, but a lot of people in the Fortnite scene have overcome these issues with new tools and procedures. We have Unite to give out codes to make sure it's not shared, so you get everyone into the lobby without anyone actually seeing the code. We have automated systems like Rematch GG and War Legends that can automatically calculate everybody's scores. There's just a whole bunch of things that you can do to make your job easier and make these tournaments run better. A few weeks ago, or not even 2 weeks ago, I ran my own tournament for $2,000. I had 3 rounds of qualifying qualifiers and finals. The games were super stacked. All the pros had a fantastic time. The feedback was awesome. And that was for only $2,000, not $35,000. So I know you're thinking, oh, the pros are just whinging. Aussie, you're just being dramatic. You're just complaining. When you see this kind of money invested in the scene, a lot of people want to see it spent properly. And while it did still go to a lot of really, really good pros, Clicks and Day, Ages and Rise, we saw Bank and Tahi up there, a lot of people making very, very good money, which was fantastic. It just felt like a lot of other teams never got a chance, and the integrity of the tournament was a little bit tarnished. And also the viewer spectacle. People in the community want to be able to watch these big tournaments, which then drives attention towards the sponsors like JBL. They get a good response, the community gets a good tournament, everybody's happy. So I wanted to use this as a bit of a learning experience for anyone who's going to run Fortnite community tournaments in the future, who might watch my videos, but also just to kind of keep you guys up to date in the community, because you're probably wondering what the hell happened. There was $100,000 worth of tournaments, and either nobody's talking about it, or the people that are just complaining and saying the tournament was terrible. So it was a few major issues, but hopefully we can learn from it and the tournaments can be better in the future. But it's not all negative. Let's talk about a tournament that ran fantastically today. The FaZe Mongraal G Fuel $25,000 Duo Cup was a perfect example of how a tournament should run, and it was excellent. You can now go back, look at the leaderboard, look at the standings. You can even go back and watch a whole bunch of people who stream the games, because almost everyone did, or you can go and watch the actual broadcast on the twitch.tv/FaZe channel, because it ran really well. They've reached out to Praxserver to run this tournament, obviously ran by Monster D-Face, who knows how to run tournaments, and it was amazing. They used War Legend for the leaderboard, Unite codes went out, nobody griefed, everyone had a great time. So it's a perfect example. Don't want to just sound like I'm being negative and anytime someone runs a tournament is terrible. A lot of times they run really well, and this was a good indicator for how the EU comp scene is shaping up right now. Obviously, like I said, we did have the JBL ESL EU Cup going on at the same time. We had a few pros playing in that one. I saw Vino and I saw Noah Riley, but most of the top tier pros were playing in the Mongraal G Fuel Cup, and we had a fantastic result. We had Hen and Queasy take out the first place slot on 138 points. They played absolutely insane, walking away with $8,000, and I mean, they had an almost 20-point lead on second, which was Default and Stormy Riot. We had Dandir and Japco, Anas and Pink, Tusum Putrick, ADN Bloomy, Eclipse Go-Go's, Seti Rifler, Vettel, Screwy, I believe it is, and Kiko and Slender. Now, Hen and Queasy won the first two games back-to-back, taking height. The first game, I feel like a little bit for free. Second game, they played it incredibly well, and honestly, they're one of the most consistent teams I've seen right now in duos, and I feel like they're not one-dimensional. This is not just a full send height or nothing team. Their last two games, they played low and mid ground and got a 4 elim 5th and a 5 elim 3rd respectively. So this team knows how to play multiple different levels of the game. They're not just go high ground or nothing else. I did see a little bit of kind of, I don't want to say friction, but I did see a few times Queasy trying to IGL, Hen really being a bit tunnel vision of what he wanted to do, because Hen is obviously still a phenomenal player. I did hear from some other EU pros like Jenks that this team has kind of gone from splitting up and reforming a few times, but I can't see much on social media. Don't want to throw Jenks in the deep end, so maybe a bit of confusion there, but this team, first tournament, is looking absolutely disgusting. They looked so incredibly good. The next one you're probably going to ask about, the next major question, is Mongraal, how did he go in his own tournament? Unfortunately, he only got 14 points total, coming 37th out of 50, but Mongraal, as we very quickly saw, because it was a custom matchmaking tournament, has not been playing Chapter 3 at all. The map was not discovered. He had 0 arena points whatsoever. He found Void as a teammate, I think, the day before the tournament, and unfortunately, it seems to go to show a lot of what Mongraal's situation is. Whether for the better or the worse, it doesn't look like Mongraal's taking Fortnite that seriously in Chapter 3, and it doesn't look like he really wants to compete that badly. And I mean, that could be a good thing. Mongraal might be moving on, he's growing up, he's doing better things, so I'm not going to be too sad about it, because it seems like Mongraal is quite happy outside of Fortnite right now. But if he's going to start grinding, he's going to have to start doing it soon, because it's a few weeks into Chapter 3 now, and clearly it did not reignite Mongraal's passion for Fortnite. Maybe he's taking this time off over Christmas. He's going to come back bigger and better for tournaments next year. He didn't really mention anything on stream about playing tournaments or his performance. They didn't really have a drop spot either, so I don't want to say, oh, Mongraal's washed, he's playing terrible. They were just kind of not taking it that serious, and I guess that's the story of Mongraal right now. So I wanted to make sure I included that, because I know a lot of people are going to be asking. As far as the rest of the leaderboard, I do do want to do a recap on who's playing with who and where they're dropping in the near future. But right now, I kind of wanted to just focus on this tournament a little bit. And when we get closer to the major tournaments like the Cash Cups and FNCS, that's when I'll start recapping the teams more, because over Christmas when there's no tournaments, I imagine a lot of them are going to change, and especially a lot of their drop spots are going to change. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed. Please chuck a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.